Hey, hello everybody. Hello, good afternoon. This is Ahmed Fauzi. Today we will speak about ISO 27222. A couple of weeks ago, the International Standards Organization released a new version of the 27202 security controls, cyber security controls. This great security controls that is known for many organizations, that is implemented here in many organizations. Many organizations already compliant with ISO 27201. So today the change happened to ISO 27202. What is the reflection on ISO 27201? What is the reflection or the current reflection on the current certifications or the current people that, or the current organizations that are already compliant with ISO 27201 and already has the certifications? What will happen in the next new surveillance audit, or what will happen in the next new implementation fine or certification audit? What we need here really have to do, trying to be compliant and to achieve here the compliance here with the best implementation, with the most efficient implementation, and so on. So let's first of all, let's understand the scope of the changes and what is the reflection on the current fine ISO compliance. Let's understand first of all, let's know the ISO 2720213, the current, or already a couple of weeks ago, we can say this is the current security controls. We can say that ISO 27202, it's considered as the practical standard, as the practical controls, as the annex for ISO 27201. If you want to be ISO 27201 compliant, you must implement the clauses and something we call it here annex. Annex, it is the controls. The annex here, it is the ISO 27202. So we can say the ISO 27202, it is the controls that we have to implement in the ISMS, Information Security Management System, to be ISO 27201 compliant. To be ISO 27201 compliant, you must implement 1 and 2, ISO 27201 and ISO 27202. Because 2, it's a part of 1. So in the current, or I'm saying the current, however, today it is not the current, but as I said a couple of weeks ago, it wasn't it was the current 2013, as you see on the screen here. That 27202, 2013, it was the controls that you have to implement. How many controls? 114 controls. How many groups? How many domains that we have? We have 14 domains that covering the policies, information security policies, the organization of information security, how to have a system, the controls that help me to have a real ISMS. Human resources security, these are 6 controls that helping me to control the employment process before the employee joins the organization, during the employment, and after the employment. What we have to do after the resignation of one of our employees. So before, during, after, these are the human resources A7. A here stands for annex, by the way. And maybe a lot of persons are asking here, where is A1, A2, A3, A4? You can see here, starting from A5. So this is a question here. Where is A1, A2, A3, A4? We will answer late. We will answer later. Or maybe if somebody knows the answer, he can participate or she can participate. You can write down on the chat box. Fine. Where is Annex 1A, 2, 3, 4? Where? So we will answer this question later. However, if you like to answer, you can share on the chat box. So today, we have the human resources security controls in ISO 27013. Assets, asset management, labeling, classification, access controls, cryptography controls, physical and environmental security controls, operation security, fine. Communication security, the applications. The application security, it's considered here in A14. A14 is considering the systems acquisitions. When I purchase, I acquire, I create a new software for my organization. Yes, we have to control this. If I will develop one from beginning, I must have a security development policy from beginning in my hand. In addition to that, also how we can maintain the current software, the current application that help everybody to access to our data. So our data, one of our main points that we have to protect. So we have to save the application first by implementing this 13 controls that is starting before selecting your software vendor. Number 15, the supplier relationships. The number 16, the incident management, how you can handle your incidents. Some information security aspects related to business continuity. This is number 17. And finally, the compliance management. Compliance management. This holds, and in this one, by the way, in 18, if you are delivering, if you are in the context, in the scope of the GDPR, you must be GDPR compliant to be ISO 27020 compliant. Yes, I have some controls here that control the ODT to adhere to the current regulation, or the local regulation in its country, or to adhere to the local regulator on if it's in the scope of having a local regulator like central bank or something like that. So this is the compliance you have to adhere for this. This was 2013. So what is 2022? In 2022, the controls became near less. By the way, this is not the first time. This is not the first time. If you remember, in ISO 27020 2005, one before this one before 13. The one before 13, it was ISO 27202 2005. If you remember, if anybody here remember, how many controls was exist in 2005? It was 133 controls. 133 controls. And you can see here in 2013, it became 114. And today we have more efficient control and less control on the same time. Fine. So this is something good to people that like to be compliant. So you now have less control. 93 in just 4 sections, as we call it here, sections, not domains. Fine. So at the end, the 4 sections are starting from the organizational controls, people control, physical controls, technology control. I think this is very similar to the PPT. Yes, usually when we speak with one of our clients, when we speak in one of our training, usually we are saying that we are implementing the controls in and by PPT, people, process, technology. Yes, it is not a matter of installing firewall and configure this firewall so you will be safe, you will be secure. No. Nobody can say something like that. We can say that to be to be more secure, you must work on the people, educate people, make training for people, make some education for people, make awareness for people. Number one, which is security awareness or something like that. Training, give them enough training, good training. Number three, education, maybe they can go to make a master or diploma or something like that. Fine. So this is people. Invest in people. The best, again, the best control against the social engineering, it's known. It is the security awareness. This is the most efficient. So number one, people. Number two, process. And the process you can see here, this is in the organizational controls. On the organizational controls, process. And we will discuss here the 37 controls super fast. I hope that we can pass by this 93 controls super fast. Fine. And I hope it will be perfect. I hope it will be useful for all. So this is people, process. And finally, the technology, some of our technology controls. So you can find here that the controls exist in four sections. Section number one, organizational controls. Section number two, people controls. Section number 7, fine, physical controls. And section number 8, the technology control. Maybe somebody asked the question, Ahmed, again, it starts with 5. Again, it started with 5. Where is 1? Where is 2? Where is 3? Where is 4? Let's answer this question super fast because it must be crystal clear for everybody. Fine. Where is this? You can see, let's start here with the ISO 27201. In ISO 27201, you can find here that we have introduction, scope, normative references, terms, and definitions. And these are the main sections. And we have 6 sections from number 4 to number 10. Fine. So you can have some clauses. Clause here, this is high-level statement. Regarding the risk management, this clauses here regarding the PDCA, plan, do, check, act, plan, do, check, act, plan, then do, then check, then act. Fine. So, and we have many graphs that can describe it for us. But remember here, check number 9. It's 2 points. 9.1, the internal audit, and 9.2, the management review. So you have to plan, and you have to have a good planning, and then do, perform, take an action, check, it's number 9. And act, it's number 10, to take an action against anything that is not compliant and so on. Against any non-conformity. If you have any deviation or something like that, you have to adapt. You have to enhance and so on. Fine. So this is ISO 27201. And there is an annex. The annex that is highlighted by green. You can see the annex started with A. A stands for annex. This annex, it's 115 controls in 35 control objectives in 14 domains. Fine. This is from A5 to A18. Again, why Ahmed started with 5? Because this annex, it is a part of 27202. You can see 27202, it is 2 parts. First part that is highlighted by the white yellow, the white blue here, fine, introduction, scope, normative references, terms, definitions, structure, standards. Fine. So the real controls starting from number 5. So because of this, it is number 5 here. I hope this is clear for you. Clear for all, right? If it is not clear, just mention on the chat, please. So the controls really starting from number 5. And it is for number 18, because it's 14 category, 14 sections, from number 5 to number 18 that we have covered here, from number 5 to number 18. Clear? Fine. So today it's changed. Today in 2022, the controls became 93 controls, and from section number 5 to section number 8 only. 5, 6, 7, 8. That's all. However, it is a controls. which is mean it will be reflected on the current controls. You have to make a comparison between both. You have to understand what are the main components that you have to cover here in these controls. Let's go super fast during, let's go super fast here in these controls. Fine, as you know, you have to purchase the standards, fine, from the website of the ISO, fine. So I can share here on my screen, fine, the current security controls here. Fine. The current here controls that we have here, this is the structure of ISO 27202. And so you can find that we have here the section number 1, 2, 3, 4 are the structure and so on. Starting from number 5, we have here 35 controls. 35 controls. These are 37 controls, sorry. This 37 controls, this 37 controls are discussing in the organizational controls are discussing the following here. You can see, fine, the first, it is the policies for information security, rules, responsibilities, segregation of duties, management responsibilities, contact with authorities. Because of GDPR, you must have a supervisory authority. You must have a DPO, data protection officer. Contact with special interest groups, threat intelligence, new controls for threat intelligence. Information security and project management, yes, the best is to lead by project management. Fine. And also we have the inventory of information and other associated assets. Yes, it was exist in GDPR that we must have an inventory for our activities in the controls and on data, our activities on data, and also it is considered here, it's including here what we have in this data and so on. Acceptable use for of information and other associated assets. You can see here it is operational control, how to manage the data, how to manage. What are the controls that help me to manage the ISMS? Return of assets, classification of information, labeling, information transfer, fine, access controls, identity management, authentication information, access rights, information security in supplier relationships, fine, addressing information security within supplier agreements, managing information security in the ICT supply chain if you have here something industrial and so on. Monitoring, reviewing, change management for supplier services. You can hear supplier, third parties. Why? Nowadays, everything it's presented as a service. Nowadays, we have a lot of cloud services provider. It's make a lot of sense for me. Make a lot of sense for me to hear, find that we have here to have in hand many security controls that exist in this way, and that is controlled here by all of such controls in ISO 27202. The information security used for cloud services, very clear for cloud services. Information security incident management and preparation, you must here, if you are cloud service provider, super fast, you must be ISO 27201 compliant and ISO 27017. If you remember 17, I think that we mentioned before in many conferences before, ISO 27017, this is the security controls for public cloud. Security controls for public cloud. And the 18, it is protecting the PII in public cloud, protecting the PII, personal identifiable information in public cloud. Fine. So this is the controls that we have. Fine. Especially you can see it's very clear here for cloud services and so on. Fine. Asset assessment here and decisions on the information security events, which means that you must make analysis for this event, which means that you must have SIEM solution, SIEM solution, SIM solution, finds that make analysis against these logs. Response to information security incidents, learning from information security incidents, collecting the evidences, some forensic finds that it will start after the incident management directly. And the information security during during disruption here, how you will manage the information security during disruptions. Yes, I think it makes sense to discuss something like this after a big pandemic happened, like COVID-19. How we can manage something like this during the pandemic, political unrest, disaster, natural disaster, something like that. ICT reading here for business continuity, legal. Yeah, this is very important here. The contractual requirements, the regulatory requirements, all of this here must be considered. Yes, I made this exercise many times, and I discussed this exercise many times in the cloud service with many cloud service providers. Why? Because it's extremely important to have something like this very clear, very clear, exist inside your environment, to have a clear SLA, clear points between you and your cloud service provider. We have a lot to write. We have a lot to write between us and our cloud service provider. Why? Because if something went wrong, I will not go to my cloud service provider and ask him or her to tell them that we have something it named shared responsibility model. We can Google it. You can find this is your responsibility, not mine. So nothing will be achieved, nothing will be heard at this moment. Fine, everybody will say it is not my responsibility. Fine, but what we will adhere to, it will be the contract. Very clear, the contract. Intellectual property rights, protection of records, privacy, and protecting the PII, independent review of information security. Yes, you must have an independent and review of information security. Compliance with policies, rules, standards, and information security. Documented operating procedures. All of this are the 37 controls. For people, we have just 8 controls. 8 controls you can find. Number 1, screening before hiring. Screening, background check, terms and condition of employment, including the acceptable use, non-competing agreement, non-disclosure agreement, and information security awareness, education, training, disciplinary process, if you have a code of conduct or something like that, responsibilities after termination or a change of employment, confidentiality or non-disclosure agreement, remote working, after the pandemic that it's became the default, everybody working from home. Information security event reporting. Fine. So this is here a good controls for people. For physical security and physical controls, yes, it makes sense. We have 14 controls because no physical security equal no security. No physical security equal no security. So you have physical security perimeters, physical entry, securing the offices, rooms, facilities, data centers, monitoring for physical security, protecting against the physical environmental threats, working in secure areas, fine. The equipment sitting here and protection, security of assets off premises. Maybe I have some assets off premises. Maybe I host my data in a data center, fine. So these are some assets here out of my premises here. Storage media, supporting utilities, cabling security, equipment maintenance here, and finally the secure disposal, secure deleting, or how you will be able to reuse your equipment here. If it was, for example, a laptop dedicated for one of the sales team, fine, and I need to deliver this laptop for one of the operation team, or laptop from financial team, I will dedicate for a new employee here in a new department or something like that. So maybe it will be here, it will be considered as a challenge here. Also in the technological controls, fine, yes, we have 34 controls. 34 controls. And remember, technology will not solve all of your problems without a real process, without a real protection for your data. And so in the technological here, controls, you find here the endpoints protection. We cannot call it here antivirus anymore. We cannot say this is antivirus. I am using antivirus. I will install the anti. Actually, almost we do not have antiviruses nowadays. We have endpoint protection. That is including antivirus, anti-malware, anti-rootkits, anti-spam, anti-web attacks, anti-ransomware, firewall, host-based firewall. So this is a security solution. We call this endpoint protection solution. Privileged access rights, information access restrictions, access to source code. Yeah, I can control the access to the source code using cloud-based solution or local-based solutions. But you must control something like that. Secure authentication, capacity management. Yeah, I think this is something crossing with ISO 20000. I think this is something crossing with ISO, with ITIL. Fine. Yes, all of these standards, it's like the puzzle. It's like the puzzle pieces can work together. You can connect, but actually it is need an expert that can make this connection. So, protection against malware, management of technical vulnerabilities, configuration management, information deletion, data masking, data leakage prevention, and information backup, readiness of information processing facilities, logging, and monitoring activities, clock synchronization. This is very important for the forensic purposes. It's required in many other standards like PCI DSS. Yes, many of these controls are crossing with the PCI DSS controls. Use of privileged utilities program, installation of software on operational systems, network security, security of network services, segregation of networks, web filtering, use of cryptography, secure development lifecycle, application security requirements, secure system architecture and engineering principles. Very important. Something like SAPSA model, TOGAF, to consider the security very early. Yes, this is a success key, to consider the security very early. In a very early stages, you can consider everything here. Fine. In a very early stages here, you can consider the information security. Fine, you can consider the information security, you can consider the security requirements very early. So it will be something extremely important for you. Also, you can see here the secure coding principle. Did your developers attend how to write secure code class before? So I think it will not be a surprise for you when you see that some of your developers are writing vulnerable codes because you didn't train them. You didn't set a cycle or a process here, fine, to write a secure code and assure that the code that is written here, it is safe and secure. Security testing in development and acceptance, outsourced development, separation of development, testing, production, something basic here. Change management, testing, test information, protection of information assets during audit testing here. And so at the end of the day, you can find this are the security controls here that was exist in the ISO 27202, fine, ISO 27202 security, ISO 27202 2022, finds that just released, and this became here the main structure, fine, of anybody that wants to be ISO compliant here, or you must be compliant with the following sections of ISO 27721. In ISO 27721, you have here 10 sections the introduction, scope, normative references, terms, the context of the organization, number 4, clause number 4 here, and this is covering here to set the scope of the ISMS and define the security controls, the leadership here, the endorsement of the upper management, fine, and having a policies, defined rules, responsibilities, and so on. Planning here is this the first one, plan, do, check, act. Planning here, first one, to perform some sort of risk assessment, identify, analyze, make some planning for information risks here, define the information security objectives. This is still exists. These are 27201. These are the 27201. Fine. So these are the orange part. The orange part you can find here. It is the orange part that we are discussing here. Support here something behind the plan, do, check, act here to provide here the resources, the awareness, the documentation, and so on to control the documents. Do. Number 8, operation. This is related to the operation here, how you can implement the security assessment results and so on. Number 9, check. Fine, which is mean performance evaluation here, 9.1. I remember 9.1. It is the internal to having internal audit, and the 9.2. It is the part that is related to it is the part that is related to the management review, upper management review, extremely important for me. Finally, number 10, the improvement here. This helping you to address the findings of audits, reviews, and so on, to make non-conformity. If there is non-conformity, you will make the form here and take the corrective actions, which just means that you are managing here. I would like to say thank you very much for your time. If you have any question, I will stay here. I will wait your questions on the chat box. Fine. So this is the time for questions and answers. Fine. If you have here any question, fine, please write down your question on the chat box. Fine. So you will be more than welcome. Also, if you want to unmute yourself, fine, and share. If you want to unmute yourself to ask a question or something like that, fine. Ahmed, if at the end we can make a pre for the changes, yes, we can make a pre for the changes here, that it was 114 controls in 14 sections. It became 93 controls in 4 sections. Many changes in the controls itself. It is more modern controls related to the current type of IT services that we have, outsourced services, cloud services, the situations that we faced worldwide, like the pandemic here and what happened in COVID-19. So this is a summary. Danny asked, which are the most difficult items in the new version? I cannot say difficult, I can say new, because at the end of the day, this is not something new for us. All of these controls, maybe we were covering in the Cloud Security Alliance, Cloud Control Matrix, CSA, CCM. Yes, some controls here crossed with CSA, CCM, Cloud Control Matrix version 4, the latest one. Some of these controls was exist already in the PCI DSS. Fine. So I cannot say these are difficult, because yeah, maybe it can be a challenging a little bit for some organization. Yeah, you understand me, Danny. Fine. Thank you so much, Abdurrahman. Which group or items have been removed at the old version? Yes, this is need more details. There are some controls has been details, has been removed, fine, and the new controls has been, this need a real or in deep here comparison, fine, Danny, between this one and this one. There are some controls are already exist, there are some controls has been removed and some controls has been added, fine, but this was in our session, it was fast brief here, or make fast revision here on all the controls, fine. and make reading here for this controls here with some comments here. All right. How you can obtain this certification, Mahmoud Fine is asking. Yes, how you can obtain this certification? You have to start with gap analysis. We have a previous webinar. We discussed here the ISO 27201 journey. Fine. So you have to start with gap analysis. Important, you must make a good gap analysis. Of course, it must be by a consultant, fine. So somebody that can help you, fine, with a real life experience, so they can help you super fast to move from the point of not being certified or not being compliant to the point of being compliant. How super fast? This is starting with gap analysis, make remediation, fine, start the ISMS, monitor the ISMS, enhance the ISMS, then go to the audit, fine. So this is the one. Fine. Zia Al-Haq asked, is there any existence for the cybersecurity framework and which part is covered? Cybersecurity frameworks here, Zia, I can say it's covered more in the organizational controls. The organizational controls and of course in the technical controls. So it can be covered on this around 71 controls in section number 5 and section number 8. Danny asked here, what is the main focus? What is the main focus of this new version other than BDCA? BDCA still exists here, Danny. BDCA still exists. BDCA here in the orange part. You can see in the orange part, BDCA, Plan, Do, Check, Act, still exists in the orange part. PDCA still exists, planning here in section number 6. This is in ISO 27201, didn't change it. Do in the operation, section number 8, or closes number 8. Check number 9, performance evaluation, act, the improvement. So this is simply the BDCA, still exists in the orange part in ISO 27201. So you can find this 2013, this 2020 still exists in this part. Yeah, you understand me, Danny? Could you confirm? Musa asked here, what is iExpert? Does this provide service related to complying with ISO 27201? Yes, thank you, Musa. iExperts here, it's our company, fine. We are in our experts, we are in iExperts, we are a group of experts that are implementing and also providing the final audit by authorized auditor here, fine. For example, there are a few persons considered as an authorized auditor, fine, that can provide you with a certification from certification body, fine. We are a very few persons, fine. So I'm authorized auditor, so I can audit and implement. But if I implemented, I will not audit. If I didn't implement, I can audit because of the conflict of interest. So we have two teams are dedicated. We have a group for implementation. We have a group for audit to provide the client with, at the end, with the certification, fine, with the best quality, with the best resources and the best utilization for the resources. This is iExperts. iExperts here, it's a company that implements the ISO 27201. This is super. This is too fast or super fast answer for your question here, Musa. Thank you. Mustafa, what is the best approach for adapting the new changes here while in processing implementing the ISO 2013 standard? Mustafa, this is a very good question here. If you still in the beginning, at the beginning, please stop. If you still at the beginning of the implementation of the controls, please stop. Revisit your gap analysis based on these controls. Revisit your gap analysis based on these controls, because the project started with gap analysis. This gap analysis here, after you started with the gap analysis, you will go to perform some sort of remediation here to close this gap. So at the end of the day, if you are already implemented all of these controls, so you must make a revision also and make gap analysis between the current security controls that you are already implemented and the versus the current and or the new controls here, Mustafa. I hope it's clear, Mustafa, for you. Fine. So there is any questions? Any other questions? There is any other questions? Fine. Okay. So this is here. I think this is the time to say thank you. Thank you, Mahmoud. Thank you very much, Mustafa. Fine. Thank you, Musa, Danny. Thank you, Dia. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ahmed. And thanks. I hope you enjoyed the session. Fine. Follow us for more and more webinars. Fine. That is presented by the experts. Fine. Thank you very much. Stay in touch and see you in another conferences. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Thank you.